Hey everybody, welcome back to 101 Guitar Lessons. My name is Lauren and today we're going to learn how to play bar chords. It's a very exciting time in a guitar player's life when they graduate from open chords into bar chords, and I'm happy to share that with you, so that's awesome. Before we get started, please remember to like, share, and subscribe these videos. Every little bit helps. Thank you so much for your support, and we'll get right into it now. So, in this video in particular, this is part one of a two-part series. We're going to learn how to play sixth root bar chords. What does that mean? It means that this sixth string, or the low E string, okay, that's where we're going to find the root note of these chords, all along the sixth string. So if you don't know how to find the notes on the guitar, check out this video here. Okay? Now, another important thing before we get started is you need to know your E major, E minor, and E dominant 7 open chords. If you don't know those, check out this playlist. Now, it's a lot of things that you need to know before we get started into this. One more reference point. If you don't know how to play an F major chord, I definitely suggest checking that out, okay? Here's a video to that. Now, the reason why I say that is, the way that we play the guitar normally is just a direct point of pressure between your thumb and your fingers, okay? When you play single notes, or even when you play chords, at the same time, you've got your fingertips and your thumb kind of applying pressure. You're not gripping the guitar like a baseball bat. You really want to make sure that there's space in between your hand and the neck, but it's kind of like a pinch like this that you're playing chords like this, for example. All right? So having said that, with bar chords, that kind of goes out the window for your first finger. It is very similar to the F major in particular, or F minor chords, where your first finger is kind of laying on its side and it has to apply pressure to more than one string and one note at a time. Now your thumb is still that major point of pressure behind the neck, but your first finger has to conquer more than one string. In this particular case with sixth root bar chords, you have to get all six. Whoops. That's all six strings. So how do you get that to ring clear? Really, that's your first step, and it's going to be a tough one, especially if you're just starting to play. Well, you want to think of, rather than that direct point of pressure between each finger, the tip of your finger and your thumb, you want to think of a triangle of pressure. Now, I talk about that a little bit in how to play the F major and F minor chords, in that when you're playing an F major chord, for example, and you get all those notes nice and clear, in particular those first two strings that are covered by your first finger only, I talk about a triangle of pressure between the tip of your finger and your thumb and your first knuckle, or the first crease in your finger, and your thumb as well at the same time. So it's kind of like 3 points of pressure there. They're creating a triangle, okay? So this just extends that idea across all six strings. So you really want to, a lot of people will stick their finger way over the neck. I don't like that. I don't think it's proper or it'll help at all. I think you keep it right around here, okay? Let's take a closer look. So really hang out right around here on the neck. You don't need to have your first finger hanging out all the way up there. The other thing is you're not flush on the strings like this. You're going to be a little bit on the side, because the side of your finger, go ahead and feel it, is a lot bonier, and the under part of your finger is a lot fleshier. So it's easier to apply the pressure needed on the side of your finger. Also, it helps with the angle and comfort of your arm and your hand and your wrist, which all come into play, okay? So first thing I want you to do is cover all six strings with your first finger on the first fret, okay? And you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna get as close to the fret as possible without actually touching it, all right? And you're gonna apply that pressure. Now, instead of that triangle of pressure being between your first knuckle and the tip of your first finger, it's still gonna be between the tip of your first finger, but it's gonna go all the way over to the second knuckle, okay? So you're applying pressure between here and here at the same time. Let's take a closer look at what I mean. So you're applying pressure between your thumb and your finger, and your thumb and your first knuckle here. And that, along with turning your hand on the side and your finger on the side a bit, will help to get the clarity of all six strings. Okay? Now that we've got the bar shape with your first finger covered, you have to realize that you have to get a chord shape underneath it to make it a minor quality, a major quality, or a dominant 7 sounding quality. Well, really, let's look at it this way. If we look at the nut of the guitar, this is called the nut. you can also call it kind of fret 0 because it's an automatic fret, if you will, kind of like somebody putting their finger there without needing to actually put your finger there. Put your fingers right behind the nut. Let's take a closer look what I'm talking about. So here's the nut. Put your fingers right behind the nut as though it was another fret, okay? Now play the E major chord shape. So normally you'd play it like this, but you're gonna switch your fingers around to use your second, third, and fourth finger and put your first finger imaginarily kind of behind that nut as though it was a fret. So realize that the E major chord is already a bar chord with the nut being the bar instead of your finger. What I need you to do at this point is slide everything up one fret. So now your first finger's along the first fret, and you're playing that E major chord shape just slid up one fret. So you're at the second fret and third fret. Okay? Now, I'm going ahead and I'm playing effectively. My first finger is playing the first fret of the 6th string. My third finger is playing the 3rd fret of the 5th string. My 4th finger is playing the 3rd fret of the 4th string. My second finger is playing the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. And again, my first finger, which is barring the 1st fret, is playing the 1st fret of the 2nd and 1st. All right, so don't feel terrible if it doesn't quite sound that clear. If you have some muting issues, some buzzing, that kind of thing, that's normal, okay? You're just getting started. You need to develop the comfort and the strength and, frankly, the muscle memory to be able to get the right angles for the pressure, okay? Now, right off the bat, you're probably squeezing the heck out of it and thinking, oh man, how am I gonna do this on a regular basis? You don't have to do that for very long. It's just a matter of getting accustomed to it, and I'm really not applying very much pressure at all to get the clarity. Okay? So that E major chord shape is really what determines the major 6th through major bar chord. Now you can move that anywhere along the neck. You really should know the notes, the names of the notes on the 6th string, or at least how to find them. If you don't know how to do that, check out this video right here. It will explain very easily how to learn the notes on the guitar. But assuming that you do, go to the 5th fret for a minute, bar off the 5th fret, all right, and put that E major chord shape right underneath it. All right, so you can hear that it sounds very similar. It's the same notes. All right, we're now playing it as a bar chord, okay? You'll notice that the 6th root, meaning the root note, you're finding the root note or the name note on the 6th string, that's an E string, right? So that automatic bar behind the nut is an E. So we're basing it on the E chord shapes. Therefore, if you wanted to play minor, you'd play E, not major, but E minor. Lift up your second finger. That's a 6th root minor bar chord, okay? So you slide it up one fret to F, because this happens to be an F on the 6th string. That's an F minor bar chord. You've got that E minor chord shape, meaning your second finger is just up. Let's take a closer look. So here's the major chord shape with your second finger down, minor with your second finger up. Okay, you might move it anywhere, G minor, A minor, C minor. Okay, so that's the idea right there between major and minor. There's one more chord type that you should learn, which is a dominant or dominant 7th or 7th. They all mean the same thing. So if you see G7, for example, or G dominant 7, or G dominant, it all means the same thing, all right? So how do we play that? Well, it goes back to the open E chord shapes. If we've got E major looking like this, E minor looking like this, we have E7 looking like this. So back to the major, and you're lifting up your third finger. So let's go switch your fingers around so that your first finger is free, obviously, because you have to bar off with your first finger. And you're going to lift up your pinky. Slide it up one fret to the F. Now this one, make sure you arpeggiate the chord every time to clear up any kind of buzzing or anything like I had in the beginning there. And then you can strum through. So, major, minor, dominant 7, which walks that line between major and minor sound. Let's go to that G7 that I talked about. So find the G on the 6th string, that happens to be at the 3rd fret. You bar it off at the 3rd fret, then you play the dominant 7 chord shape. Let's take a closer look. So again, if I say play a G7, you find the G on the low E string, so E, F, F sharp, G. All right, you bar off at the 6th string, or the 3rd fret, all 6 strings, and you play the E7 chord shape underneath that bar, and there's your G7. E7 chord shape playing a G7. Here's the G root note. Here's B flat, B flat 7. Let's say A minor, G major. Okay, so that's the idea. You find the root note on the 6th string, you bar across all 6 strings with your first finger. Remember that triangle of pressure between your first finger and that knuckle back there, and you're kind of squeezing between here and here at the same time to make that work. Turning on the side a little bit, so you've got the side of your finger, and you're playing the E major, minor, or dominant chord shape depending on the type of chord that you want to play. So if I were to play a simple A blues, for example, you know, let's not do A because there's an E in it and well, that'll confuse things. Let's do a G blues, okay? So a G blues, let's do a G7 blues. So G7 would be, the next chord would be a C7, or a D7 would be the last chord. All right, so if we use those chords here, it would be G7, C7, D7. All right, so stop there for a second. You'll notice, you'll hear a bit of a squeak happening. That will happen, don't worry about it. That's really happening now, especially because I'm in front of a camera, I suppose. But that comes and goes with newer strings. These strings are fairly new. And you'll get used to that rubbing sound, and you'll kind of learn how to deaden it a little bit. But anyway, let's get back into the G blues. Okay, G, C, and D just on the 6th root bar chords here. Fancy ending. There you go. So that's the idea. That is a 6th root bar chord. Thank you so much for joining us today. Check out the next video where we're going to learn how to play the 5th root bar chords, which are based on a different chord shape and slightly different system. Okay? So thanks so much for joining again. Remember to subscribe, like, and share, and all that good stuff. 101 Guitar Lessons. Guys, take care.